First of all, I wanted to start off by telling you that I'm really proud of all you guys for sticking with everything that we've taught you so far, especially on all the flip lessons that we've done. I know that fractions are not easy for you, especially when you're learning how to add and subtract them. But I just want you to know I really appreciate how hard you're working. I'm going to tell you, the harder you work, the easier this is going to get. It might be hard to begin, but the more you struggle, the more you figure it out, all of a sudden you're going to start predicting and thinking ahead of what numbers you can change your equivalent fractions to, how to simplify. All of that's going to become something a little more simple. It has to start somewhere. You have to keep plugging away, no matter how hard it is. Keep it up. Way to go. Today I'm going to introduce you to talking about certain types of numbers that we call improper fractions and mixed numbers. And in this video, we're simply going to talk about converting them. So I'm going to type the learning target for today to get you thinking about what your goal will be at the end of this video. So one of the first things I want you to be able to do is that we will be able to, or I can convert mixed and improper fractions. We'll talk about what those are in a little bit here, and then how to do it, or what I mean by converting. So first, let's talk about this. A mixed number will be any number that has a whole number mixed with a fraction. Put them together, we call them a mixed number, a mixture of a whole number and a fraction. There's your mixed number. Mixed fractions, some people call them. Your other numbers we call improper fractions are any fractions where the numerator is more or the same as the denominator. So for instance, if I do something like 8/3, the 8 is more than 3. Also, we know that this fraction is greater than 1, because for it to be the same as 1, it'd have to be 3/3. So any fraction that's 1 or greater is what we call an improper fraction or an improper number. Okay, so going to the next page is where we'll talk about what do I mean by converting. What I'm saying is we can have any improper fraction also become a mixed number, and any mixed number we can convert back to an improper fraction. They can become equivalents to each other. It's kind of a way of simplifying them. So if I'm going to change 17/5 to a mixed number, or simplify it to a mixed number, I'm going to show you how to do that. One of the things I'm going to look at first is how many times can I make 1 out of 17/5? So I first have to think, well, what makes 1 in fifths? 5/5 I know is 1. And then I want to know how many of these 5/5 can I add up until I get close to 17 or exactly 17. So for instance, right now I have 10 of my fifths. I need to get to 17. So I know if I add another 5/5, that now gives me 15/5. So I still have a little bit more to add, but it's not going to be 5/5 because I have to think how many fifths plus 15/5 equals 17/5. Well, if I have 15 right here, 2 more fifths would give me 17/5. Now to figure out what mixed number it is, I'm going to first look at this grouping of 5/5. Because each one of those is equal to 1, I know that those together make 3. Or 15/5 equals 3. And then I still have an extra 2/5 to add to the 3, which gives me what we call 3 2/5. So I know that if I'm going to convert or simplify 17/5 to a mixed number, it will be the same. It will be equivalent to 3 2/5. There is another route to go with this. You don't have to add it all together like we just showed you. You can also use division to help you. Because when I'm looking at the 17 here, I know that I'm trying to get it into groups of 5, which is what you see right here. how many groups of 5 can I get out of 17? And I noticed that if I take 17 divided by 5, I can get at least 3 5s out of that. And there's still a remainder of 2 of those 5s left. And that remainder is what we call our 2/5. So if I know that I'm looking at this, I know that 17 divided by 5 gives me 3. And then my extra 2 make 3 and 2/5. So if you can get to that point, you can use that if that's a quicker shortcut for you. If not, you can add them all out and see what you get left over. Okay, now I'm going to look at converting or simplifying an improper fraction to, or excuse me, a mixed number back to an improper fraction. So for instance, let's say I have 2 1/4. Here I'm going to start by looking at how many fourths are equal to 2. So 2 is equal to how many fourths? Again, remember we said, well, how many fourths is equal to 1? Well, in this case, 4 fourths equals 1. So to equal 2, I have to have another 4 fourths. Adding this together, that's 1 plus 1 equals 2, or 4 fourths plus 4 fourths equals 8 fourths. So all of this right here tells me 8 fourths equals 2. And then I still have one more fourth to add to that. So now I'm going to add that one more fourth here, which gives me 8 fourths plus 1/4 is 9 fourths. So 2 1/4 equals 9 fourths. Again, there is another little shortcut to look at for this. If I take a look at this part right here, I know that I'm taking the number 4 in my denominator, and I'm finding out how many of those 4s it takes in my 4 fourths to get to 2. So I'm noticing that I'm taking 4 2 times. 1, 2 times. So another way people look at it is they can say, I can take 4 times this 2. That gives me 8. And then I'm just adding this other 4 on, or 4 times 2 plus the one more fourth, which gives me 9. And I know that the whole thing is in fourths, so I know that it's just going to be 9 fourths. Again, maybe it doesn't make sense to you to do it that way, so you may want to add it all out. Either way works. But 2 1/4 is what we would convert or simplify to 9 fourths. One last thing to consider is sometimes when we convert or simplify an improper fraction to a mixed number, we also still sometimes need to simplify. For instance, in 6 fourths, I get one set of 4 fourths. There's my 1. Plus, how many fourths are left to get to 6? Well, 4 plus 2 fourths would make 6 fourths. So 1 plus 2 fourths gives me my mixed number of 1 2 fourths. Some of you right away might recognize that I can simplify that into 1 1/2. And so whenever you're converting, that is another possibility to consider. So finally, I'm going to have you practice this as well. After you're finished practicing that or filling out these problems that I'm going to write on the board here, I then want you to show your teacher or one of the adults in the room, and then they will let you know what to do next. So here are 5 problems that I'd like you to do in your journal. Convert 10 thirds into a mixed number. 3 1/5 into an improper fraction. 12 fourths into a mixed number or into simplifying it. 2 5/6 back into an improper. And finally, 15 sixths into a simplified number.